Pleasure to be in front of all of you. Change is interesting, and I think especially in the times we live in, change is only going to accelerate. All of us are very familiar, probably sick of seeing this phrase up on presentation slides, change is the only constant in life. But to me, what's more interesting is who coined this phrase. And it was actually coined by Heraclitus back in 5th century BC. He's one of the most famous Greek philosophers of the time. And to think that from 5th century BC to today in the 21st century, this phrase has still held true is pretty significant. So please don't plan for change to cease. Those of you that feel we're in a stable environment, your jobs are at risk, your companies are at risk, your careers are at risk, and I don't think that is an overstatement by any means. The other famous quote around change is Charles Darwin. He made it in the context of the evolution of species, that the ones that will survive are the ones that are most adaptable to change, not the strongest, not the most intelligent. This is very true for all of us as humans in our personal lives, our personal careers, but increasingly it is, and over time, it has proven to be true for companies as well. If you look at the poster child for a company that completely missed the change, and at the peak of their size and dominance, they were the industry leaders, they were the industry creators. They fell by the wayside because they refused to see the change. Some of these names, I'm not sure of the average age in this audience, but I may be dating myself, and some of these names may not resonate with some of you. Digital was at the time known as the IBM killer. When they came out with the mini computer, changed the industry completely. Motorola, the whole mobile revolution arguably started with them. Nokia, of course, we know the Nokia story. Many of these names were either category creators, definitely category dominators, and over time, because they refused to see the change or couldn't see the change, have either died completely or are a pale shadow of themselves. And the names go on: BlackBerry, Blockbuster. Blockbuster created the industry of renting videos. They were the first ones to come up with that concept. They don't exist anymore. If you look at Xerox, arguably the inventor of the PC as we know it today, pale shadow of themselves. Palm Computer, again, many of you probably don't remember them. They were the creator of the PDA industry. They were the first ones to come up with the personal digital assistant. It was the rage of the time for, I would say, about 8 to 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. They're gone. Atari was the creator of the video game industry almost single-handedly. They don't exist anymore. Yahoo pre-Google was the biggest portal in terms of what used to be a search engine back then. They refused to see the change that search is where the world would go, and they almost fell by the wayside. So the names go on and on. Walkman, again, many of you probably don't know what a Walkman is. This was the start of the mobile music revolution from Sony. It was a device that was way more popular than the iPod, but it couldn't keep up with when the iPod revolution took over. They faded into obscurity. Borders created the whole mega bookstore. They were the first to do that. I realize a lot of these are US or Western names. Interestingly, and probably it's good, we don't have too many names from India that I can put on this list as yet. Maybe 5 years from now, I'll have a full slide of Indian names up there. Polaroid, all of you probably know Polaroid. And the one that's the saddest for me, National Geographic, which shut its doors last month. Again, an icon in its industry in terms of what they did. And something that's playing out in India right now, Paytm. And you'll see that the change that all of these companies missed could have been different. In the case of Paytm, it's a regulatory issue. The fact that they didn't embrace, they were the leader in the digital payment space in India. but they didn't move fast enough to embrace the UPI revolution. They tried to keep their closed ecosystem as their differentiator for too long, and that's really what has created the problems that we are seeing today. And then Netflix. But why Netflix? I mean, they're doing extremely well. They're probably having their best performance ever. But what is not known, and when I was at Gartner for about 34 years. When I was at Gartner, the CEO of Netflix had visited us, and he said that Netflix had two near-death moments where they almost had to shut shop. And the way they survived was by pivoting their business model almost on a dime, as they call it, and that caused them to survive. The other interesting thing he said was that over the course of the number of years Netflix has been in existence, they have radically changed their business model 8 times, and he's counting. And that is what has caused them to remain dominant. So if you look at all of the names that missed the change, Netflix, that could have succumbed to the change, actually used it to their benefit and is probably one of the strongest names in the streaming industry, an industry that didn't exist when Netflix was created. Thank you very much.